those for longer term. It's going really
So
well.
we're recording and,
Yep.
okay. So I guess it's what, 9:02, so Carrie is not here today, so as vice chair, I will guide the meeting. My name is Mark Kestner. I guess we might as well introduce ourselves. So I'm the North County rep.
Hi, good morning. I'm Corinne Karlovic. I'm with CARE. I'm representing nonprofits today.
I'm Kristen Kakiuk. I'm an at-large representative and I'm based in Rockaway.
My name is Parker Sammons and I'm the Tillamook County Housing Coordinator.
I'm Elizabeth Bookman. I'm the new office specialist with community development.
Brianne Prince, Helping Hand.
I'm Gail Uzel at large. I live way South County.
Dave Bennett, South County Rep.
Sarah Dental, Real Estate Community Rep.
And
Hi, my name is Savannah and I'm the Regional Education Outreach Coordinator for the Fair Housing Council.
Rich Brackett,
The coast. I mean.
next door neighbor.
and online, we've got Aaron.
Good morning, Commissioner Scar, liaison to this group.
David.
David Madison, member at Little, Bay City.
And I think, does that say Jackie?
Yeah.
Jackie Pewitt. I'm with the Columbia Pacific Economic Development District, the program coordinator.
That's everyone. So the mission minute is next, which we shout out things that happened in the last month of note, housing wise or other. So who's got something to say?
Well, we've been doing really well. Our shelter's we're coming up on a month, come like the 11th, 12th. For the shelter that we grand opened last month, excuse me. It's doing really well. We have occupancy every night in our night by night. We've had a number of nights where we've gone over capacity when it's been real stormy. We're able to put additional mats down from what we have set up for. So that's occurred a couple of times. And then our village, we are at half occupancy and we've been actively screening individuals to qualify for that type of housing. Qualify, and I say that in quotes. But they work with a peer and they do a screening and kind of come up with a pathway in order for them to be able to take occupancy there.
Can I ask what the criteria is for occupancy at the village?
So it's low barrier, which
Okay.
means there's really it comes down to engagement. We want the individual to be engaged with a peer.
Yeah.
Working through identifying what their challenges are
Okay.
and seeing if we can make connections to the resources in our communities to address whatever those challenges, from mental health issues, addiction issues, physical health issues, chronic unemployment, whatever it might be, by pairing with a peer. That peer will start assessing and talking through and walking through. So really it's just engagement. A low barrier shelter has minimal parameters around it. There's a few, no sex offenders, anybody with an arson conviction on their record, they would be excluded. But that's pretty much what low barrier is. To be staying in the villages where the housing units, you have to have active engagement to be working on, because the goal is that that's a stopgap between a peer and a housing coordinator seeking long-term permanent housing for you. So you've got to be working through whatever those challenges are that are creating the environment where you're not in that situation. And so really it's just about active engagement, and that looks different for every single person.
Perfect. Thank you.
Interesting.
What's your occupancy limits in each place?
We have 10 units in our village, our new West Village. 2 of them are designated as family. So 8 can occupy up to 8 or 2 per unit, so up to 16. The families can occupy, they're set up for 3, but we can put mats down. So again, every family is kind of a different makeup. So they're really large in capacity. You could put a couple of cots and additional cots in there. So it's, so really it could be fluid what the number is. We only pair people up, we only double people up in the single units if they are, partners or, that's how they demand to be. We don't independently pair people up together. So it's just, that's how their makeup is. So it can be fluid.
And you said you were partly occupied. Which ones are?
So the West Village is about half full of individuals right now. So we've got we have 4 units that are, individuals working in the program. We've got, and then we've got a line that are actively screening with peers to get the next one in. But every week we're getting more people into those. So we hope to have them completely full in the next, if not few weeks, next couple of months.
That's one where they could stay 6 months.
Up to 6 months. And that's up to 6 months is a little, everybody, the housing market is such that, at 6 months, they just don't, I mean, if there's something and then they're just not gonna be kicked out to the street if we've got something in the works or if they're well on their way to seeking a solution, housing solution, long-term.
Well, it's interesting. So since we're frequently considering 30% of area median income, it seems like a natural progression. So how does, I don't know if this is something you could say in a few words, how does that work? Sort of from our point of view, is someone after 6 months and then say one of our units or one of the units that we may have funded. comes
Yeah,
in?
Corin, why don't, what do you say, what would happen when those 6 permanent supportive housing units come online in Manzanita? Would
Yeah,
what
that-
would be the pipeline into those units?
So really, when they get started into our shelter, they pair up with a peer, and that peer does assessments, and they work one-on-one with them on a weekly basis, identifying those challenges. Then kind of the next step is to connect with a housing coordinator. So the peer works with that individual to address what may be some of their challenges. Is it employment? Is it mental health needing to be addressed, addiction, whatever it might be? They start getting them on that path. Once they're on that path, they'll connect with a housing coordinator. The housing coordinator has the relationships and the partnerships out in the community that work with the long-term permanent housing. And so the new Manzanita units, we were getting the information in the last month about the applications being open for those. Those went out we put it out to everybody, so the awareness, everyone needs to know what's out there and what's happening because we're talking to people all the time. But the housing coordinators really work with individuals to do application, to see if there's monies involved, to assist them with getting through that process.
And that's your housing coordinator.
Yes.
Not mine.
No, our housing coordinators. So peers work with individuals, it's kind of like a step, right?
Gotcha.
So you start at the step let's talk about what our barriers are and how we can address them with the resources the community has. Once we're looking at that and they're working towards settling that, then they get to a housing coordinator who has the connections, the contacts, the wherewithal to help with any other kind of like housing assistance, whether it's social security or, help them get in line and to do the applications to get into those facilities.
Yeah, sometimes I wish I had like production in my title.
Yeah.
Section, but as you know, the housing terms are very complicated, as we've gone over many times.
So any other shout outs or whisper outs?
I guess I have
Okay.
a whisper out. Probably some of you already know this, but Kevin and Katie Schluka, who were the instruments in the housing in Pacific City, Kingfisher, and who are instrumental in Thompson Springs, have purchased the Beaver School, the old Beaver School building. And so we'll be talking to them.
Oh,
What a wonderful kind of location that
Yeah.
is so important.
They're gonna turn it into housing.
That's one of the goals. Yeah.
Right.
I think anything that keeps that community from falling apart, like
Absolutely.
that I grew up there
Ah.
and to have the main hubs no longer be there and to like be falling apart between the grocery store and the school, like being able to see those like turn back into things, wherever it ends up is a pretty cool community piece, so.
And I don't want to share details about it, but their goal for it is for more than housing.
Beautiful, whole piece of property.
Yes.
I'll add on to that. Kevin Kellogg is a widespread developer across the West Coast, and he contacted us curious about housing, and we talked about South County. And one of the things that we went over is that OHCS funding allows for scattered site development. And so there might not be one specific property in South County that could do a big needle moving amount of housing to be able to apply for a lift or a LIHTC or things like that. But when you gather several sites together and you can call it one project, even if it's not on the same site now. And so that's going to really expand our toolkit for South County. So if somebody wanted to go and try and do 5, 6 cottage clusters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they could apply for one grant to do all of those projects and call it a scattered site. And so I'm still learning about this. It's kind of the recent change, but it was also interesting in that meeting. He told me that he wanted to come to Tillamook County, set up a nonprofit and pre-lease with the teachers and school district and stuff. And I was like, oh man, you're running my playbook, and I think you might find the low-hanging fruit has been picked a little bit. So, but it was very kind of confirming to hear that from such a successful developer. So. We have a lot of interest in South County right now, and we're really trying to figure out what tools we need to move forward down there.
I had talked to the Wheeler City Council as a member representative of the Housing Commission, just to sort of reintroduce us every time because they're new counselors. And it was a very good meeting. People actually asked questions. Parker was able to help me answer one of the city councilors' queries about it was a short-term rental versus middle housing query. And how does one make sure that middle housing being built in this example in Wheeler doesn't automatically mean someone's going to make a short-term rental of it? And so we happen to have a housing needs analysis that addressed this on page 10 and 11.
What paragraphs?
Sorry, I fell back. So that was interesting, and I met with Manzanita City Council and gave the blurb, and I'll be going to Nehalem next month to, again, say the Housing Commission exists. This is what's happening in your community, because to make it relevant to them, they may not care about, say, South County in the same way that South County does, and so with Wheeler, I was able to say we had funded Schumann Apartments 3 or 4 years ago before my time, and I learned there are 5 units in that apartment off of Gregory and Wheeler, if people are interested. And so in Nehalem, I will do the same thing with Thompson Springs being relevant and other local things. So get out and talk to people. It's great. Anyone out there in internet land or? Okay, so next is public comment. Any comments locally?
Just happy to be here.
Okay. And are there? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, so I just, hello, everybody. First, I just wanted to say that I am definitely openly going to say Tillamook is my favorite jurisdiction that I have worked with in my 3 years at Fair Housing Council. Tillamook is aggressively productive with housing compared to counties 3 times your size, and you do much more with budgets than counties do at 10 times your size. And, opting into housing production, and the needs analysis and all the work that, I know Parker has really been the backbone of a lot of it, and he's been doing an amazing job, but the amount of involvement and care about the community that Tillamook has, I think is probably one of the most impressive that I have seen, because in terms of government, city councils, I see a lot of people who want to be in positions of leadership, but they do not lead, and they do not care truly about, the people on the very bottom that maybe they don't even know and they don't think that they will affect, but they do. Fair Housing Council has, lost all of our federal funding. So unfortunately, my job position is, I have a finite amount of time left in my position through 2025, hopefully a little bit of 2026, but I'm not sure yet. So I just wanted to make sure that I make myself available and offer as much as I can in the next month and a half, 2 months. Trainings, I'm doing a training tomorrow at Helping Hands, but I would really love to do an elected officials jurisdictional training for all of you guys, because that will not only benefit you in general, but it will also confirm and affirm any requirements for affirmatively furthering fair housing. So if you receive any federal funding, any CDBG funding, most of it has requirements for fair housing. And just making sure that you guys are given the training that you guys need, because I really do think that hopefully once things change, and funding streams open up, that you guys, because of how active and how productive and proactive you have been doing, that you guys will kind of be bumped up a little bit in eyes of HUD, because they do take into account jurisdictions that are actively trying to solve housing problems and not just waiting for solutions to fall in their lap. And I have not seen Tillamook sitting by idly and just letting things happen. So really, really happy and proud of Parker. She's been doing an amazing job. And I'm happy to be here. And if there's anything that I can do for anybody, please let me know. I will bend over backwards to help you guys out. You guys are my favorite. I know that's public record, but so thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
So is there a way for us to make sure HUD's aware of us? Or is that automatic by what we're doing already?
Well, the housing needs analysis and the entire, you guys working with DLCD helps, but in terms of funding, when you go to, for example, apply for grant funding that is federal funding, I'd be happy to write like a letter of recommendation or letter, things like that, that are just saying, hey, you know, this county, this jurisdiction is going above and beyond to, you know, XYZ. And HUD has, when they look at funding, like CDBG funding and other types of funding, they have different weight scores that they will use. And for example, where I live, the town I live in, they are on the very, very bottom tier because of the amount of available housing that they don't have. They don't do anything for housing. They don't create housing. So if they were to apply for funding and competitively go against another jurisdiction that has been doing that work, HUD does take that into account. They don't want to just give money to jurisdictions that have not actually been trying to do the work in the first place.
Good to know.
So what should we be applying for?
I can talk a little bit about that later on in the housing coordinator report, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good, sure,
Yeah.
sure. Any public out there or so?
You know, Mark, we did have a scheduled public comment, but I don't think Steve is here.
Okay.
So I'll ask him to come and visit with us in December
Gotcha.
instead. And
Parker, I'm here if you
oh,
want to
you
chat.
are. Sorry, I saw you as CT. Oh no, Clay. I was talking about Steve Bruno. We had a public comment there.
Oh, okay. My bad. Sorry.
Clay, do you have a public comment before presenting in a minute here?
No, I will chill in the background. Sorry, guys.
No worries.
Okay, so we'll skip Steve
Yeah.
and jump to Elizabeth.
Yes.
Uh-oh. I'm not gonna talk for 10 minutes.
That's fine. I'll give you 10 minutes of my back.
No, you're fine. So yeah, I'm Elizabeth Whipperman, resident of Oceanside. I just started this week with the county and community development. I'm gonna be working really closely with Parker and Sarah. I've already got my hands deep in the MURL, or at least my brain, trying to get wrapped around all the different funding opportunities and everything. I'm just really excited to be here. I'm very passionate about housing for everybody, so yeah.
Awesome, great. Yeah, Elizabeth's going to be helping with some of the admin, reporting on the funding, communications, some of the social media.
The fun stuff.
Yeah. And we're really happy that she's here.
Wonderful. So, Merle update, Kristen.
Okay, it's actually a good news report also, because I went to the county commissioners meeting where they discussed the MERL, which stands for Moderate Income Housing. Something,
Moderate Income Revolving Loan Fund.
Moderate Income Revolving Loan.
One more acronym
Right.
for everyone.
Right, it's easier to say MERL. And it was, there were several people that spoke in favor of MERL. There was one person that challenged it. She was afraid of losing the tax for the county for the 10 years that you can.
Low income tax credit.
Somewhere.
Well, for MERL. And she proposed instead that the county should give individuals who are trying to build housing like 3 years of tax relief. And she acknowledged that it was a very complicated policy to understand, and I think that some of the other things that people said clarified that the county really isn't losing taxes because the land that is going to be developed isn't really paying much in taxes in the first place. So the loss is already in place, and MERL would actually stimulate taxes in the long term, because after 10 years, everybody will be paying taxes. And so I also spoke in favor of MERL and pointed out things about the taxes and the importance of funding for middle housing. And it was clear that all of the commissioners were pretty supportive of MERL. They asked a couple of questions, like Paul Fournier asked about the importance of getting in early for MERL. And that gave Sarah the opportunity to say that this is really a crucial element because there's $10 million set aside for rural communities like ours, but we could also tap into all of the rest of the $75 million if we get our foot in the door quickly. So that was another impetus. And Aaron Scar emphasized that all of the available tools that we have are really important. There's not one thing that's more important than another, so we got to jump on this. So they voted in favor of the county taking on the MERL responsibility.
Thank you, Kristen. Yeah, that we are the second jurisdiction and it's Commissioner Scarlett.
That's what I was going to say. I say we're one of two, and we were a part of the governor's press release because we were one of two. So thank you, Parker, for the information so we could get that in there. And while they credit it to me, it is of course not all my work. So anyway, good job to the Housing Commission, Parker, everyone who's been a part of getting MERL on its feet in Tillamook County.
And we've also applied for a grant to help stand up the MERL program here, and we'll keep you guys posted on that, but we're confident on that. So lots of great things happening with MERL, and we have many good projects that now and in the future it could apply for. And with that, unless anyone else has any comments or questions about MERL, I'm going to go into my housing coordinator report. I'll do a little bit of MERL updating. And since we are there, I'll just give you the nuts and bolts here. MERL, the resolution passed, the master agreement has been signed. And just yesterday, Oregon or OHCS gave me the project specific resolution. And so just to refresh you guys on how this works is the first resolution we passed was to initiate the creation of an agreement. And so it was a resolution to basically make this agreement. When we did that, we also said that we will turn this resolution into an ordinance down the line to make sure it gets cleaned up and as things evolve, because we didn't even have the master agreement. And so now we do. The master agreement's been signed. That is what allows us to then push forward to what is called the project-specific resolution portion of this. And that means that each time somebody is qualified for MERL, in order to fully apply, they need to go before the county commissioners and get a specific resolution for their project passed. So MERL is not a carte blanche. If you are eligible, you just apply and go forward. It's more of a really thoughtful and intentional process for each project. That said, we do have 3 projects that are either immediately or soon will be qualified. There is the Tillamook Bay Commons project we'll be getting an update on. There is Thompson Springs, which is the Sammy's Place project. And then Habitat has a project in Bay City that was planned for a lot longer out in the future, but with Merle on the table is rapidly accelerating it up to being something that's more immediately viable. And that just goes to show like how getting one of these programs online will create more opportunity as people see that, oh, if there's a tool, I actually have this shelved project, but that's what I've been waiting for. And so Merle is creating a lot of opportunity like that. And so just because it is the moderate income revolving loan fund, it does go all the way down to affordable low income housing. It's a broad spectrum of housing that can utilize this. And yeah, what other ones? Master agreement. So the project specific resolution is going to be reviewed on Monday by myself and Director Absher and council, and then it'll be reviewed by the county commissioner's office. And then we'll start to see people move to get their project specific resolution going. Another key part of this has been how does the assessor assign value? What role do they play? How does that process work? And we've had our first meeting with that and they are going through the valuation process on the first one. So we are moving forward on it and we're really excited for Merle to go. We're the second county. I'm hoping to be the first one to get to project resolution. So we can leapfrog Coos Bay, I think, a little bit. Yeah, is there any other questions about Merle or anything that's going on with that? One other thing I'll add is once I'm now in the place where I can start going out and bringing the cities on board with Merle. And so there will be some outreach that'll need to be done to go to each of the cities who wants to make this available, whether they have a project in mind or not. And the cities will have the option to basically ride our Merle program. And so the projects will still have to go before the county commissioners to get approved, but it will be in the city at that point. So there's some other projects that will open this up to, and we're going to work with Bay City and Manzanita has indicated. I'm sure Rockaway will all be interested. And it's a pretty simple process for them to join our program.
And the cities don't need to have a project ready to go. They can just sign on and hope that it becomes a lure for potential projects.
Exactly. You don't have to have one in mind. You can create the tool and create the option and make it available. And hopefully that will generate some more projects becoming viable and we learn about them.
Well, and I think that what you said about the Habitat project, that it kind of was something that was gonna, back burner a couple years out, for that to accelerate it forward, that's actually the thing that's going to create community like, oh, this is cool, because once you're able to take that timeline that's back here and push it forward and be like, oh, look at this. This was like in 3 years where we're going to be able to do this, but now we're able to break ground come spring. Like that's phenomenal.
Absolutely. And that's what we want to see.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
we're really, really pushing, or we're excited to see that push forward and I will keep everyone updated.
I have a question. Do the applicants don't have to be in a city though? They can be.
They can be anywhere in the county. And if they are in the city needs to be part of the program. If they're in the UGB, they're already qualified. If they're outside of the city, but in the UGB. So there's a lot of the county that's already ready to go. And for a city to join, it's a single meeting. So it's not a lengthy review process. And this can also be done, with Habitat involved. It really shows also that this is for sale homes too, and Sammy's Place. It's not just for rentals. This can be for ownership as well. So.
And is that per door of units?
That's a really good question, Mark. So unlike most programs, this isn't the amount that you get for a Merle isn't really determined by the size of the project necessarily, but the tax basis. So our Merle program allows developers who are developing up to 120% and are a privately held company, they get 10 years of Merle. If you're serving 80% and below AMI and you're a nonprofit, then you get 15 years of Merle loan terms. And so what we're working with the assessor on is they need to get a value established so we know what the property tax is every year. And then we times it by either 10 or 15, depending on the loan terms you're eligible for. And all of that money is given to you upfront. in the project, plus a 6% program fee. And the program fee is to make sure that we're not costing the general taxpayer money by administering this program and helping a project get built. And so it covers the costs. 5% goes to the jurisdiction, so the county, and 1% goes directly to the tax assessor's office to pay for their time. And so if you have a project that will have $100,000 a year tax, then, and you're a nonprofit, let's say, then you get 15 years of that, which is $1.5 million. And then they'd add on the program fee that you have to pay back. They start paying it back through taxes. And so that's kind of the different thing, the really interesting and new thing is that they will just pay taxes as normal. And MERL is a 0% interest loan. So they take that $1.5 million and they give it to the county as a 0% interest loan. The county grants it to the project. And then when the project pays its taxes as normal, it goes to pay off that MERL loan. And every year that money goes back to MERL and revolves back out. And so every year money comes in, money goes out. And that is why it's the revolving loan fund. And so it won't take 15 years until MERL has more money in it. As soon as a project is built, it'll be contributing back into the funds that it borrowed so that those dollars can get back out there doing more work. Yeah, it's like a TIF district. It's like it's a TIF, yeah.
So when the funds come to the county, do they go into, can they go into like a high yield? What happens to any kind of like interest that's earned on that?
You know, I believe that it's supposed to be lined up so that there should be very little carrying opportunity there. And so that it should flow very quickly and directly.
Okay.
We're still working out all the small details on that, but I just want to be clear that the state will loan 106% of your MERL terms to the 0% interest loan. And so the taxes are paying off not only the loan, but also the program fee for administering all of this. So that's why you're getting 106%, and that's why they have to pay back 106%. So yeah, and then there's also an escalation clause, so each year they pay a little bit more, and that's to help make sure that things pay off early and to avoid a situation where new taxes get assessed in the middle of the MERL process. So there's a lot of things that a lot of people who are smarter than me have been putting a lot of thought into considering and trying to make sure that the county, the developers, the owners, if it's habitat, are all protected. Because if this is a for sale situation for a MERL, if it's a habitat project, when the home sells and transfers to the owner assumes the MERL repayment. Again, they just paid to property taxes as normal. And that is what's different is that we play loan collector a little bit, but it's to make sure that it goes right back to pay off the loan and back into the revolving loan fund and everything. So it's a very clever way to create money out of nothing and then pay it back. So
Make the appraisal.
so right now we're working through what will be an acceptable appraisal, and I shouldn't go too into the weeds on that because I'm not an assessor and I couldn't really speak for their process. But just, I think that we're really making sure that it's as easy for the assessor to do their part in it. And we're asking for the projects to bring some sort of valuation for the assessors to begin with.
Okay. Parker, does this show up as a lien on the property?
Yes, but I can't remember what position or where at the top of my head, but I'd be happy to get more details to the finance committee at our next meeting about the loan position, where the lien is, deed restriction and covenants and all that's involved. I'll be prepared to give a full rundown for the finance committee if that's okay.
Sure.
Parker, so just so I understand, like we already have a 10-year tax abatement program through the county.
Yes.
The difference with MERL is that it gives the developer money up front
Mhm.
rather than in the aftermath, so that they can get the project off the,
Yeah.
on the road already.
And the state is willing to put that money up
Yes.
front to help us do that. So it is a much better option than the 10-year tax abatement on the back end that we currently offer any project for multifamily 120% and below.
Especially
Wow.
for infrastructure and development.
Correct.
Ah.
Merle, if you take enough public money and Merle counts as that, even though it is technically a loan, it does trigger prevailing wage rules. So it is something that developers will have to be mindful of. Any other questions about Merle before I move on to a few other items? Awesome. The development committee will officially be getting going again. Thanks to our expanded bandwidth. Sarah will be leading the effort there, and that is because housing production strategies is something we've talked about here in the past, but it's now our turn to do it. And the production strategies, this is where we tell the state of Oregon how we will meet our housing needs. And this is all part of the legislation that 406 included Tillamook County in. So for the last months, cities over the size of 25,000 over the size of 10,000, pardon me, have been submitting their housing production strategies to DLCD. And they are big 98-page reports, and they have their needs established and then the strategies that they either will or would like to use to meet those goals. And so that's things like using new middle housing code, housing incentives, our housing fund. Those will all be listed as strategies. But we do need to demonstrate to the state that there is a plan of some sort to meet our 20-year housing needs. We are a little behind because we are a whole county, and Senate Bill 406 lumped us all together for our housing production strategy. Everyone else is just one city. Ours is going to be the county with all these little cities too. And so it's taking us a little longer, and they gave us a little more of a back-end time limit to get this done. But over the next year, this will be a big part of the work that the Development Committee will do and the Housing Commission as well. And so we'll be restarting the Development Committee, and we'll be putting out information about that, but they will be kind of the first stop for some of these housing production strategies. Any questions about that? When? This month.
Well, and Parker, you also have to say that the consultants will be working with each of the cities to help them move along with this process as well.
Yes. And we did get a grant to help our housing production strategy work, and we do have consultants. So yes, thank you for mentioning that, Dave.
Parker, did our housing needs analysis get finalized? Was there some open items?
Yeah, we did. We have our finalized housing needs analysis. I was hoping to have a complete comparative analysis for you today, but I haven't been able to get that all the way done. But our 2019 and our 2025 are on our website. The 25 full report is up there, and anyone can go and take a look. We've gone over some of the key callouts, but I have a draft. I can show you guys some of the key things that I found that we can take a look at the end of the meeting once we get through presentations and whatnot. But yes, and then also we have another housing needs kind of analysis coming up that the state is doing, the DLCD is doing. So we'll be able to compare those two as well. So we'll have more data coming in, which is great.
And they'll focus not on everyone as well as Tillamook County. Yeah,
everybody's been doing that because they need the needs analysis statewide so that everybody can set their housing production strategies to the same needs analysis using the so everything is apples to apples. Update about Neoconi Middle Housing Code meeting is next Thursday, and it would be great if 1 and 2 housing commissioners could come and give testimony. There have been many people who've come and done that for these other middle housing code updates, and it's been really appreciated. Michelle has been wonderful, and some of the more, just doing some really great outreach to remind everybody about why middle housing codes are such an important part of housing in Tillamook County. A quick little preview of the HNA does say that to meet our housing needs over the next 20 years, 40% of our housing will need to be middle housing of some type, just to meet that goal, to our need. Moving on to, if anybody would like to do that, please email me and I'll get you all the details.
Neoconi,
Yes, Neoconi, and it's the last one.
which is not a city.
No, it is like an area. So like Oceanside had their middle housing code.
So it's like a community.
Yeah, CAC. So it'd be great if we could get at least 1 or 2 for that. CERTA updates, 3 projects have gone through the CERTA application. Those are ones that were pipelined. 2 of them were involved at the technical advisory meeting to help sort this out and get it ready for everybody. That means that $2.6 million has been approved for the Thompson Springs, Tillamook Bay Commons, and Spruce Point projects. And that is the rebate that they receive at the back end. I was also told that we as the jurisdiction can have a set aside for certain unit types. And as one of the greater goals of CERTA was to help us have an opportunity to demonstrate that ADUs can be a big part of the solution here, we're going to set aside 5 CERTA grants at $100,000 to help with to have a deliberate ADU program. We're going to do some direct outreach about that. We will market it, but just kind of received permission to do that. And so we're setting that aside, and we'll put out more information about how individual homeowners can get some help to be part of the housing solution.
That's 100.
It's 20,000 per unit.
Oh,
And there are stipulations that you have to go through, but they have a whole team to help you understand and make it easy. And in addition to that, the administrative funding that came with that will start to be reported on in Flow as well. So that was a great little addition to the CERTA, was that it came with some money for us to pay for time to do these things and administer it. Merle updates, we already did. The resolution passed, master agreement signed. We're on our way to a project-specific resolution. Bay City urban growth boundary expansion. David Madison, do you want to give a quick update on that? Just talk about like key deadlines and whatnot coming up.
We are still waiting. It's not a lot of movement forward.
Yeah, the deadline for that expansion is in April, and so we'll be trying to find ways to support the Bay City and the projects that are being proposed for the urban growth boundary expansion site. The Wheeler Health District has, they've now finished their clinic. The old Reinhardt Hospital is a target for demolition and redevelopment of housing. We met with Northwest Housing Alternatives, who specialize in low income and very low income housing, and toured with the team there. There's been a few different teams who have toured that site now. We put it on the list for potential brownfields to help with that. It is an amazing site, an amazing opportunity. It is going to be a slow one because of demolition. There are dirty materials. That place is filled with asbestos and lead paint, and is really, really, really creepy. I can tell you. I got to the back of the pharmacy and found a little tiny room, and just it was a very creepy, weird place. But everybody was really excited at the potential for redevelopment and opportunity to get housing in there. So great opportunities for that as well. Beaver Middle School, as Gail said, is also another one that we were targeting as a brownfield to help get the project moving and to find out what's possible and everything there. I'll speed through these next ones, but the Housing Infrastructure Financing Program has opened. This is not to be confused with the Housing Infrastructure Support Fund. These are different ones through Business Oregon, but this is $10 million of funding for infrastructure projects. They're really looking for shovel-ready projects that they can take next spring to maybe get some funding for. You see, the problem is that they want shovel-ready, but they can't approve these funds for some time out. And so how do you bring shovel-ready projects? But we're working through it. We have some that are interesting and have potential. It's just unclear when these funds could flow. And so it's making it hard to find what the correct stage of development it is for each project to be able to get help. But we've met with Spruce Point, might have some infrastructure on the back end of their project that this could help with. But it will be, once they gather all their applications, they then have to go to Ways and Means and get the project or the program funded. So it's the funding is there, but they still have to get it allocated, is my understanding. And so I'm trying to build the process and make sure that everyone's aware and how to do it, but applications close in December. And so it's a very kind of tight balance of, is this something that is eligible versus timelines versus everything. But Becky Baxter at Business Oregon continues to be a great ally, friend, and support, and is helping us work through who and what are good projects that will fit the actual timeline that's a reality.
Is that a state program?
It is a state program. That was from legislation from this cycle. Which is shocking that they got the money out the door this quick. They're out the door. Finally, our Housing Production Solutions Fund is open. We have applications coming in. One thing that I think we should talk about real quick is we have a situation where one of the developers is planning, really wants to apply for this, but they are actually like on a plane the day of our presentation. And I wanted to put it forward. My solution here would be to have them record a video presentation and make sure that there is somebody in the room that can answer questions. So that seems to fit within all of our rules and frameworks. Just, it is a presentation, but it's not a live one, but there is somebody who is live there. Before I give a yes or no on, or pick this up the chain or anything, I just thought I'd give some feedback here.
Good idea.
It sounds fair enough.
And do you think we should vote on it, or is just affirmation?
Perhaps I'd really like to get Commissioner Scar's input on that before we would do that. Oh, you're muted. Sorry, Commissioner.
Thank you. Sorry, you turn on one thing, you got to turn on two things. No, I think the presentation with someone in the room should work. I don't think that you need a vote. I think that it's your process to set up, and I don't think it's a, significantly tightly held written process. So I think you're fine.
I will make sure that I make that offer to all projects. So once we do it for one, I'll say, you can record your presentation. So.
I don't know. I don't think that would be wise.
Yeah.
Because it really would be better if they're present.
Well, and that we do require somebody to be present still. We'll have to have somebody who can answer questions and whatnot. But if I'm going to let one group make a recorded one, as long as they have somebody live who can answer questions after the recorded presentation is played, even if they are in the same room, Kristen, and they are just a sensitive to public speaking person, I would let them make their presentation recorded, and then they could sit there and watch themselves up on the video and answer questions for us.
I would rather have somebody be able to do a presentation. As somebody that has taken 20 years to get to where public speaking is a thing that I'm okay with. I would hate to have that be the barrier for keeping somebody else to do that. So the quiet introverts out there, I will advocate for that all day.
Or I was thinking maybe you could put out there that, what the request is, the in-person request, but then if you have conflict, please let us know for other solutions, and then have that be your other solution.
Instead of putting it out there, I'll just say if please contact Parker Sammons if you need special accommodations for your presentation.
And then that way you're ready to go with what the special accommodation is.
Yeah. Okay, that seems very reasonable to me.
If we want to make it as welcoming as possible.
Fewer barriers, the better.
Yeah.
But that is the whole of my housing coordinator report. If there are unless there are any other questions, I know that we're a little over time on our target for our update from the Oregon Coast Housing Group.
Okay.
Just real quick, the timeline again for the Housing Solutions Fund, would you review that with us again?
Sure. So the application period is open now until December 31st. Presentations will be at the February Housing Commission meeting. After that, we will move to our allocation meeting the following month, and then funds will flow immediately after our allocation decision.
That's March.
Yeah, the first week of March, we should be finished and moving towards contracts.
Okay, thank you.
And that's coordinated with the commissioners.
Yeah, and
Meeting.
what we had talked about, if I recall, I will have to check my notes. Let me check my notes while they're presenting, and I'll get at the end of the meeting, kind of pull that up, so I say good, real hard things, not just what is in my memory.
Okay. So Steve is going to do the Philip Bay Commons now.
I believe Steve and Clay, I believe both of them. Welcome, guys.
Hey, everybody. Steve, maybe go off mute there.
Steve, you're muted.
Happens to the best of us, I guess.
Wow,
And I'll
that was
just remind
embarrassing.
everybody.
I just
Steve, real
wanna
quick,
say
everyone,
thanks.
this has been our series of people coming back to give us updates on what they have done with the funding that we provided in the previous grant. So that's where we're at. Take it away, guys.
Cool. Thanks again, Parker, and everyone for your support for the project, and excited to get this project off the ground in the spring. through our new workforce housing nonprofit that we have now. And I think with that, I'm just going to pass it to Clay and let him just kind of briefly run through where we spent the grant money.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to bring everybody up to date because I think we speak with a lot of different folks from the commission at different times as we go through this process. But since last time we were here, we came to you guys previously as Maker Development, which was the company that Steve and I formed for workforce housing. And since then, we have shifted over to a nonprofit called Oregon Coast Housing Group. So that's essentially the new entity that is owning this project as it moves forward, the Tillamook Bay Commons project. As simple as that shift over sounds, it's incredibly difficult to start a nonprofit and get recognized by the Fed in this climate, let's say. So we had a really great assistance from a legal group called ORIC, who helped us structure the nonprofit, build our board, create our paperwork, and then apply for federal status. We were waiting for a while for that to come through, but about 2 months ago, we got the official clearance from the Fed, recognizing us as a 501c3 entity to do development in Tillamook, Clatsop, and Lincoln counties specifically, and serve middle-income housing as our mission. So it's a very unique scenario from a development angle in that we are a nonprofit specifically designed and kind of self-regulating in a sense to create middle-income housing in these counties. So it's both tied to the region and also tied to the mission, which is super cool. So that means the Oregon Coast Housing Group, OCHG, throw more acronyms for Parker to juggle in his brain. It is kind of taking on the Third Street project. I think you guys all have a brief of that in front of you potentially, or at least familiar enough, but it's a 72-unit workforce housing project. We're pegging our income levels at about 100% AMI. We're trying to just be right in the middle of the missing middle category. And since getting funding, what we've been using those dollars for has been setting up the nonprofit, which is a pretty extensive piece, and a ton of early diligence on the site. The site carries a number of tricky things that, to remind everybody, it is a brownfield site. It is it has infrastructure issues related to it. We have to bring a city sewer from, I think, Ash and Third down to our site, which is about 700 feet. So pretty major sewer line extension, which is a project in of itself. We also have to kind of work through early civil work on the site about drainage and things like that. So we've been spending the dollars on essentially itemizing all these different projects we have going on and getting early teams in place to do that. That requires civil, geoengineering, early architectural for my team, and then ongoing kind of work with the kind of legal entities that we've had to use to build the nonprofit. So what's ahead of us right now and what we're really excited to be a part of is the MURL. You guys have been talking about that all morning, and we're kind of the output of that. Meaning that this project would not really be happening unless MURL was that first piece. We see that as the last piece of the kind of floodgates for us to crack open and let us just go full force on the project. So the rest of our capital stack's in place, which I'm not going to go through on this because there's 10 different grants and other things going on that are extensive. But really MURL is the trigger that allows it all to kind of move forward. So we are currently working right now on the other end of MURL. You guys, Parker just talked about the adoption to the city and the county. The next process is us kind of getting the project in the pipeline of the MURL standard, basically. So that's been going on and a lot of good communication on that so far. But yeah, in general, it's been a lot of prep work. There's a lot of things on the site to handle, but I think we're handling them pretty well. But as we all know, building housing in this region isn't just about popping up wooden sticks and walls. It's a lot of other work that has to go in place to get there. So we've been kind of working our way through that to date and feel pretty confident on moving with the Merle and like Steve said, starting construction next year, which is kind of the big goal for us. So yeah, that's kind of the update.
Excellent, Clay.
Thank you, Steve.
Who has questions for us?
I did, oh, go ahead. No, I was just curious, your 100% AMI, is that averaged or all of them?
It is, the rents are pegged at 100% AMI, all the units. It's not an average. It is just where we've pegged them. That works with our underwriting. And that's where we feel is an acceptable place to be for what folks can actually afford in the community.
Thank you.
So let's see, with regard to the use of the county's monies in the fund, is there a reporting requirement with regard to how those monies are spent from time to time? I know there's a compliance requirement, but I'm trying to remember.
There, with our previous grant, which was much smaller, Parker did send me some form that I filled out and just kind of broke out where the monies went. I assume it would be, I think this coming spring is when he will send me a form where I kind of shake out where all the funds went.
Yeah, we do have a reporting requirement, and we do ask for an explanation of how the funds got spent. We also ask for kind of an idea of where the funds will be spent at the front end too. And so we don't have any real difficulty if we kind of cut them out and look at them separate. It's okay if they're a little different as long as it's all within mission and the project is moving forward. So every June is when the reporting requirements come in. And all of our projects, save for one, have been current on that. And we continue to, I take a look at it. I also do spot checks on some of our established projects. So Kingfisher, they report for the housing fund, I believe, and for the Ordinance 86 or 85 tax relief. And just to make sure that rents are what they are saying, because they provide all the rents to me. I just have a little alert when a unit pops up for rent. I just make sure that it's still in the same range that they've promised. And so I just do a little bit of spot checking, but mostly it's self-reporting. And yeah.
To be clear, our rents have to be pegged between 80 and 120 AMI because we are a nonprofit that is part of our designation with the IRS. So the nonprofit will always have the rents in that range. The nonprofit will always own the properties. They will always run them. The net revenue from all the properties will go back into the nonprofit to build more housing of the same type.
And I wanted to add something about both this project and Merle is when you apply for Merle, you have to fill out this spreadsheet, this pro forma that's called the but-for statement. And it means you have to demonstrate that but for the money you're going to get from Merle, the project isn't going to go forward. And when you submit that, it gets reviewed by the OHCS economist. And so once Merle gets to that level, there is somebody so really digging into the whole funding stack and everything that there are multiple layers of review from us to the state to this economist who does it. So I just wanted to let everybody know there's so many different times that these numbers get checked now.
And they also, Parker, if I can add, they also speak to our debt partners. To confirm, just to confirm, hey, we've got our money.
Yeah.
Clay, did I understand you to say that the nonprofit qualifies as a 501c3, which would be a charitable entity in addition to it being nonprofit?
Yes.
That's correct.
People can make contributions to the entity and get a tax write-off for that.
100%.
That's correct.
100%. And I'm glad you brought that up, Dave, because going forward, we need to, we have to close a small gap on this project, and we're still trying to find some grant funding. So anyone who wants to donate to the nonprofit can write it off, just like any other nonprofit.
That's what helps with the grants and stuff we get moving forward with the Oregon Coast Housing Group. Is it as a for-profit entity, half the grant essentially goes to taxes. So this kind of helps get all the money going towards the mission, which is kind of great. So
So yeah, like any grant money we receive from the county, state, or anyone, we can now allocate 100% of it to the project or whatever project it's for, rather than in the past, like this last grant we got from you, we had to bucket 40% for taxes.
With regard to Merle and the prevailing wage requirement, how are you dealing with that? How does that balance work out for you economically?
I don't know. How did it work out for us? I don't know if I understand it.
Well, I think the question is, what's been the impact of prevailing wage?
Are you asking about prevailing wage and bully?
Yes.
That's do we really want to go down that road?
I can address it kind of basically. The bully wage increase sort of matches basically the cost of Merle. So if you're getting $1 million from Merle, it probably is going to increase the project about the same amount of money in cost. So there's a few ways to kind of look at the kind of wage definition, and some projects are trying to look at navigating from the Labor Department, alleviating bully wages potentially. But for us, I think we still see it as a benefit because it gets early dollars for the project to happen. But yeah, it's still something in general, it increases the project, I think, from what we've studied, about 15% in the construction cost.
Let me just drill down a little more on that for Dave. So Dave, we got these letters at the end of last week from the Department of Labor saying, okay, you guys are getting Merle. It's estimated to be about 1.8 for the project. We spoke with our GC. They said that will add 1.6 to our project. So basically it's a net gain of $200,000 at the end of the day, which is, I don't think that is what Merle was designed to do. I think in our case, our attorneys were shocked basically that Merle applied to this project because it's not 4 stories. It is built by a nonprofit. It is workforce housing, yada, yada. So I did send out some emails to some folks. I copied Parker on one to basically I'm going straight to the governor and asking for her, because this is her program. And I think she needs to be aware that if you're going to pull this money, it's going to be kind of a wash because it's going to add all this cost to your project. I don't think this is news to anyone. And I feel like there should be exemptions in certain cases. If you're a nonprofit, if you're building affordable or workforce housing, like there should be some exemptions to this. Because basically, to echo Clay, we're thrilled to get this Merle money because we can buy the land, fully permit it, be shovel ready, but now we have to go out and find 1.6 million that wasn't in our stack. So that's going to require us now as a nonprofit to go out and find grants, whether they're small, large, piece that together. What we don't want to have to do is what some projects do where they just don't do them. And I know of 2 projects that just got hit with bully. They're not going to move forward. Or the other alternative is to value engineer the project, meaning you have to start shrinking the size of the units to cut costs. You have to pull back amenities. You have to, it's really so backwards, honestly. And we didn't expect this. This just kind of dropped into our lap at the end of the week. Our attorneys are reviewing this. And I don't know if Parker wants to work with the housing committee to maybe draft a letter on behalf of the housing committee and send it up the chain. I mean, your senators, people in government are the ones that can change this determination. I spoke directly with the Department of Labor, a senior person there, and they basically were like, we're not going to have this conversation with you. This is going to go nowhere. So I've done all I can at this point. If anyone else wants to help change that determination, great. If not, Clay and I will just do what we have to do to get the project built by raising more money. And if we have to cut some corners, we will. But, that's the reality, unfortunately, that we're dealing.
Good chime with one comment, then I'm going to pass it to Jackie. I just want you guys to understand that once, when prevailing wage applies, if more money comes in, it doesn't make the prevailing wage go up and up and up. It's not like every dollar in now gets like eaten up. Now that this project, if the determination stands, now that this project is at this place, more money will not increase the prevailing wage element of it. So you could look at Merle as having covered the prevailing wage, but now we have to get the actual money from somewhere
Yeah,
else.
that's a great point, Parker. Now that we're being hit with this, if we can't get this determination waived, then we can just go out and apply and go for every grant we can get, because we're not in any danger of prevailing wage. Basically, it's a 20% increase on labor. Labor for our project per our GC is around 8.2 million. So, you know, you can just do simple math. It's like 1.6 is the additional cost to the project. So go ahead, Parker.
I want to give Jackie a chance to chime in. I think she has something relevant here.
Yeah, I don't want to cut that segment of the conversation short, but I do want to put a plug in here for CPACE financing. Since you both mentioned that you have a funding gap.
I'm already talking to him.
Okay, wonderful. Well, and for you to be able to use it in the near future, Tillamook County will need to adopt the legislation, the way that it works, and you might already know that. But I do think they're looking at it in the near future to do that. So it's a wonderful financing tool because it's private funding.
Yeah.
And it can be used for energy efficiency. So instead of, I hear you say you might have to, pare the project back, its purpose is to help you expand it.
Totally. And Jackie, I had a second call with Don Schultz from CPACE, and I'm actually filling out his pre-app today.
Okay. Awesome.
But that does involve the county to get involved on a government level to approve stuff. It's kind of like another Merle sort of process. It's a special assessment is how it works. So it'll be a special assessment in our taxes.
Yeah.
The only problem with it is it's like I have to juggle. It's like, okay, so we need to cover this gap now, 1.6. If I do that program, is there enough money in the project at the end of the day? Because right now our debt is pretty high on this project through our taxes financing. We also have to pay to operate the nonprofit. We also have to pay for the sewer loan we're taking from Business Oregon, which is deaded to the project. So we're pretty deaded up at this point. So if I don't have to take on another loan, that has to be approved from our debt partners too, who are in first position, who are bringing the 80%. They have to say, well,
correct.
Yeah, we're okay with you taking a mezzanine, this is mezzanine debt basically. So
yes.
It's complicated. All of this is it just kind of landed on us at the end of last week. So I'm just trying to pivot and find the solutions here. Obviously the best solution would be if we could just get in a room with a bunch of super wealthy people and they could all write checks for $50,000 or $100,000 and they could write it off as a charitable contribution to a nonprofit. We would be done, or maybe half of that. Maybe we get $700,000 or $800,000 and Clay and I could engineer this thing slightly and save a little bit of money. But I wasn't going to bring any of this up, by the way. I was just here to say thank you for all your Merle work.
Yeah.
And just, we're absolutely going to build this project. We are so far down the road. We are spending money. We've got our whole team locked and the process has started. So this is just a very expensive curveball the state threw at us. And, we'll figure it out. It's just unfortunate that it applies to a nonprofit trying to build housing for essentially critical care workers and teachers. And it's absurd to me, honestly, if the state is serious about building housing. And I know this is being recorded, so there you go.
Jackie, what was the name of the loan, Jackie? You said two initials. I don't know.
CPACE.
So it's CPACE. It's Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy.
Thank you.
And it's been used widely across the nation, especially back on the East Coast, for much longer than in Oregon. kind of gotten us a little bit of a slow start here in Oregon, but we feel, representing Colpack, we're a approved regional administrator for the program. And so just like to put a plug in for it, just because sometimes it does make the difference between a project, whether a project gets
I
built or not.
think going forward on our future projects in Tillamook and Clatsop in Lincoln County, where we're looking at several sites, we might that might just be our entire delta outside of our tax exempt bond financing is this fund, because it won't trigger any prevailing wage or anything. And it's just two sources of funding. It's very clean, it's direct, and
Jackie, what's needed for the government? Is it a ordinance, or can we participate in CPACE via resolution? Do you know?
Let me check really quick. I believe it's a resolution. So
go through the assessor's office, I believe.
yeah, so the county would partner with a program administrator to handle approvals. I'm just checking here whether it's an ordinance. It's an ordinance.
It's an ordinance? Okay. So we'll take a little bit of time for us to go through that process.
It does take time. The great thing about it is that it's retroactive. So if you've completed a project in the last 3 years, you can still go back and secure private funding for those improvements that fit the category. And if you just want to know real quick, I mean, for the others in the room, it sounds like Clay and Steve, you're up to speed on it, but it includes solar, HVAC upgrades, lighting, insulation, water conservation, and great for our area is seismic retrofits and also stormwater management. So
yeah, I've had 2 very extensive calls with Don,
nice.
Both like about an hour and a half each, and
yeah,
it seems like an amazing program. And honestly, had this popped up 6-8 months ago, we'd probably be already down the road with it.
Yeah,
we found out about CPACE at the Colpack conference. Just putting a plug in there, that was a really great conference.
Totally,
a lot of good support. So
yeah, I was in there. I was in the room with Don, and it's with his presentation. And so people aren't familiar with the program, and so it just is going to take some time for it to work its way across the coast and Oregon in general. But yeah, so we're here as a resource. Obviously you've already connected with Don, but I think Parker and Colpack have some discussion set up, and Commissioner Scar, I think we have a meeting set for next month.
Great.
Or later in this month.
Well, I'll definitely loop maybe you and Parker in on our progress with that once we get our pre-app in. If they come back and say we're a go and they can close that delta, then I guess we'll figure it out from there.
Okay. And that's really how the program is designed to work, at least what we prefer. There are some program administrators that do it a different way. They work to find you a capital provider, but in our case, we prefer if the developer finds the capital provider first, and it sounds like you just did that. So
totally. And they will do, it's up to 30% LTV, so it can be pretty big, to close.
Yeah, and because it's a rehabilitation, correct? Is this a brownfield?
It is a brownfield.
Yeah, so for new construction, everyone should just know it is up to 100% for those improvements. It includes equipment, installation. So it's pretty amazing. And it's private funding, which makes a world of difference. It gets repaid through a tax assessment, 10 to 30 years, I believe. And it stays with the property, not the owner. So there's less exposure for the capital providers.
Will it play nice with Merle?
Yes, it can be included with other federal grants, tax credits, as part of the capital stack.
There shouldn't be any conflict, Parker, because it is a special assessment. It shouldn't be a conflict with our debt partners, Merle. It should just sit nicely in its own little spot. The question is does it pencil with our project at this point with everything else we've got locked in, because we're not taking a tax abatement on this project. So I just have to figure all that out. That's going to take me a couple of weeks, but I'm thrilled thrilled this is going to happen, and I can guarantee you we will use this on future projects.
Before you guys go, I wanted to talk a little bit about the sewer. This has been an ongoing thing. We had a meeting with the state, the city, because of where this sits on 3rd Street. Part of it is actually 131, which is owned by the state. So ODOT is involved. We have had the sewer issue come up while their sewer plant is across the street. It's a big giant U down 3rd Street and over Ash and down to get it hooked up. But in this call, it came up, across the street is the Sheridan Square Senior Apartments. And I went and looked at their parking lot, and it's in very rough condition. And it would be possible to go straight through it all the way to where there's a hookup on 4th Street. The Sheridan Square Senior Apartments are in the revitalization district, so I'll be meeting with them to see if they might be able to help, whereas the property across the street where this is not in the revitalization district. So we're trying to find different ways, but what is looking like is going to happen is we're going to find a way to take the sewer through an easement through the Sheridan Square Senior Apartments, and that should save a lot of money on the project. Do you guys want to add to that or tell a little bit about that process?
Yeah, generally, only hang up in that, not really hang up, but the piece that's abnormal is you're going across private property to do with the city easement. So I think so you need to kind of work through that with the landowner. That's part of it. And we've spoken with them and they seem to be open to it, which is kind of cool. But there's still a long ways to go. So we're trying to plan both options right now. Look at going down the highway basically and looking at, well, what happens when they cut up the street in relationship to the hospital and keeping all, they don't want to sever a water line to the hospital at some random point, So it's a pretty integrated process with the city and ODOT to really find the best path. And we had a really good meeting because we had like 15 people on the call trying to figure it out. And I would say the biggest thing right now is getting everybody at the table to figure it out. I think there'll be a solution. I think we'll get there, but you just imagine someone from ODOT who's a project manager and then all the people at the city. And then, it doesn't happen that often that everybody's able to talk together. So I think we've been very fortunate with the project and its kind of presence in the community to when people see that there's a meeting to talk about this, they show up and talk about it. And I think that's the thing that we're trying to encourage right now. So we're still trying to figure out what the best solution is, but I think we just want people to keep, coming and helping us talk about solving this problem a little bit. And then there's a whole funding strategy from Steve's side. That's a different thing that we don't need to get into. But the technical side of connecting a sewer in an area across properties and on the side of a highway and all that kind of stuff is, it's a fun one. I'm
just going to add one thing. The original thought was just to go down to Ash and plug in at Ash and 3rd, which is, as Clay mentioned, over 700 feet. That's probably about a $1.2 million additional cost to the project. Or if we can go through this apartment complex across the street, our GC thinks that'll be about half. It's also less disruptive because my personal, Clay's concern is if anything happens and we shut water service off, that's the hospital. So that would be scary stuff. And also it would really affect traffic in front of the hospital because that whole road would be torn up. So we're working through it. Obviously, our preference is to go across the street, save money, less impact, and then they will get a brand new parking lot from us out of the deal. So, it's not the worst thing.
Jackie, who do you represent? I missed that at the beginning.
Colpac. So the Columbia Pacific Economic Development District.
Right.
Steve, a week or so ago, you reached out to us about the Ag Workers Housing Tax Credit, and I was out of town for a while and haven't responded to you yet. Any of the units that might be occupied by a creamery employee might qualify for that credit. And so it's what's called an off-farm project, which is a little more complicated. But OHCS is probably our best source there in terms of determining whether or not those units might qualify. So sorry for the delay in reaching out back to you, but that's an opportunity as well that would add to your capital stack.
So you're basically, got it. So reach out to OHCS. Do you have anyone there in particular who deals with the ag credits?
Yeah, we do, and I'll call you this afternoon and send you that person's name and phone number.
Yeah, or just email me is better if that's okay. And then I'm happy to follow up, and because it's not just Tillamook Creamery, we also have Pelican folks, which I assume that counts as agriculture as well. And there are other folks I plan to reach out. I mean, we're almost 70% pre-leased at this point, which is crazy. We haven't even started. And, I still have, Parker gave me a great list of people to reach out to, like the mill, the smoker, et cetera. And those might qualify too. So yeah, I guess my only concern is it 80% AMI or below? Is that like a thing with these tax credits? I don't know the answer to that.
It's fine. You're good to go. Jeff Wong has an application in for all 4 of his units that are up to 120% AMI in Rockaway.
Oh, great. Well, that answers my question. Thanks.
Maybe we could get Steve connected with, I forget if it was Jeff or name is escaping me, the other lead on that project who successfully went through the on-farm, and maybe they can help each other out a little bit here.
Sure, yeah. It's the off-farm. More complicated.
It is the off-farm that makes it more complicated, but I can at least give a soft introduction. Is it Mick at OHCS? I always forget his name too.
Yeah, Parker, I think Dave and Parker, you're both on that email. If you guys just want to follow up with me and just send me whatever you have, I'm happy to dive in. I mean, that could close our gap. And in combination with this loan we just talked about, it could pay for the sewer work. I mean, there's so many, we're a nonprofit, so obviously we want to get as much money as we can, because the more we lower the debt on this project, the more net we have for the next project. So that's the whole goal of this organization we've set up, is to self-fund workforce housing and not have to go through this every time we do a project where it takes months and years to build a stack. So, yeah.
That's what we're going for.
I feel like we've taken up all your time, Parker.
Oh, yeah, I want to be
Sorry,
cautious. Does anyone else have any final questions for Clay or Steve?
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, way to stay with it. This has been a long slog, and we're gonna get there, and we're gonna keep, every time we have a barrier, we find a way through it, and we're just gonna keep plugging away and doing everything we can to help.
Totally.
Yeah, we're thankful of all you guys and all the extra stuff you guys do as we kind of figure out as we go through this. So very appreciative of the community you guys have and letting us be a part of it. So thank you.
And thanks for being at the signing. I forget, one of you were there from the housing committee to give testimony.
Kristen
thank you so much for that. That was great. All right, well, I gotta go to my next meeting.
Enjoy. We'll be in touch, and thank you guys very, very much.
Bye.
See you guys.
See you guys soon.
In the interest of time, and just because I've put a lot of work in it, I'd like to push the HNA back to next month when I can give a proper presentation and the full pullouts. I'm also going to go to the county commissioners and give the same presentation, doing that comparative 2019 to 2025 analysis. And then when DLCD puts out this next one from the state, we'll also do a comparison on our analysis versus theirs. You guys might recall that one of the reasons we did do our own analysis is that DLCD on the previous round did not take enough account or weight to short-term rentals. And so we did not capture or see the impact of them until we did our own study and saw how big that was. And so we'll get this interesting opportunity to compare what we came up with what DLCD comes up with in our housing needs analysis. So there will also be one of those as well.
Is there do you think that's coming out in the next 6 months, or do you know?
I'd have to check in on that. I think it's part of our housing production strategy and you need it to go forward. So I'm sure it's coming out soon. I haven't checked in with DLPD on that in a little bit, but I will, and I'll get back to you on that, Mark.
So then I guess we'll jump to finance committee update.
Nothing more to add.
Okay. And Carrie's not, is there any other person legislative update? Carrie's not
The
here.
legislative committee went on hiatus after the legislative cycle stopped, but we did have a state legislative office reach out to us and wanted to speak with our legislative committee. And so we're in the process of spinning that up for a off session meeting, probably series. We're going to be a little more proactive in the legislative committee, and we're going to kind of come back together, check out the mission of it, see if we should be meeting more regularly out of session, and what sort of advocacy work we can do now for the next legislative session so that we're a little more ahead of the game. So just trying to be a little more proactive so that we can advocate for those bills and funding a little earlier on in the cycle than we have been in the past.
Okay. So that jumps to the outreach committee. Michelle is at a conference, so she asked us, those of us on the committee, to give the report. And in October, we had a meeting, and we're pretty much trying to publicize everything we're talking about here. So, which means housing needs analysis, Senate Bill 406, updating our website, all sorts of, and going to city councils, basically outreach broadly defined for CERTA or low carbon embodied,
Yeah,
which is really what it's known as, I think now.
yeah, the embodied carbon, yeah.
And to publicize all of this so folks know what's going on, including the ADU strategy we've been talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited that Elizabeth is here to help with the
Yeah.
outreach committee. Of all the places where I could really use some help, that is one of them.
Right.
And so definitely like keep your eyes peeled on our social media and everything. We're gonna get a nice push. We'll have a lot more posts going up. We'll have a lot more outreach. But I also just want to say thank you to the outreach committee for all of the in-person work that they have been doing and going out to these actual meetings. It doesn't seem like it does a lot when you're there, but it has this huge, profound effect. And I appreciate all the housing commissioners who've taken time to come and speak at the Middle Housing Code meetings. I know that Chris did a lot of that. He's not here right now, but I just want to specifically call out, he's been at a lot of those, as has Michelle. And it is just different when members of the community come and speak as members of the community. And it just helps a lot to create a positive housing environment here. So very, very thankful for all that work.
So I guess, anything else, Kristen?
Well, just now that Merle is definitively approved and we can go forward with certain things that we've been waiting on, so we've got like a tripartite funding opportunity to push forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Quick question for you. So with regard to prevailing wage in Merle, is there a point at which that does not apply, the prevailing wage?
Yeah, so there's a few, prevailing wage is a really complicated topic. And there are times when it is BOLI, the state's prevailing wage program. And there's others when it's Davis-Bacon, the federal prevailing wage program. I'm sorry, what was the question, Dave?
If
Just
if the
not
development is small enough, does
Yes.
something not apply?
So when you get money from HUD, if HUD is the source of your funding for your housing project, it means you're an affordable housing project. The HUD has a $750,000 small project exemption. And so if you don't take more than $750,000 of their money, no prevailing wage.
Okay.
And there is a cap similar for BOLI. But this project's taken funding sources from a lot of different places. And one of the things that they've talked about considering is what if we just took $750,000 from Merle instead of the full amount? And It would actually have to be less than that because of the other public money that they've already gotten from us, from the Housing Commission. Our dollars count towards the total. And so it can be more than one source of public money that can get you over the line.
Oh,
So it's not just $750,000 from HUD. If I had already taken $100,000 and I could only take $300 or $650,000 from HUD. It's a total public money in that triggers it.
So it's an unintended consequence of that.
Right, and so remember CERTA, or the low embodied carbon program, we had to shift that from an upfront incentive to a back end rebate at the time of certificate of occupancy. And that was because that money comes from the EPA, who does not have a $750,000 small project exemption. If you take $2,000 of EPA money, prevailing wage will apply to your whole project. And so because we wanted CERTA to be able to help individual homeowners be part of the housing solution, we couldn't give them $20,000 for a $200,000 ADU that makes it cost $60,000 more. So we did a rebate, and so the rebate happens after the wages that would need to be prevailed have already occurred. And you can't retroactively go back and make somebody pay prevailing wages. And so by tying it to certificate of occupancy at the end of the program, it helps those smaller projects be able to have access to it without triggering the prevailing wage at $2,000 of EPA money. So that's why that one is a rebate. So prevailing wage plays a lot into our thought of when and how we take public money. But it's, if we had millions of dollars to give away from the Housing Commission and we gave $751,000 or $750,001 to a project, it would probably trigger prevailing wage for them. Even though it's just a local county fund, public money is the key. It's all public money. And when you add it up, if you hit that amount in your housing, it triggers. But there's also other things like in Portland, there's this huge problem where housing projects have been built and the first 2 floors are empty. And it's because if they did anything commercial, then prevailing wage would hit the rest of their 7 stories of housing or something. And so prevailing wage is having all of these weird and interesting impacts across the state on housing projects because commercial doesn't have the small project exemption. And so if you add a commercial element to your project, then it's going to hit all of your housing with it. And so they've been leaving stories empty so that they can finish the housing and not have to do it. So there is all of these, and it's a very delicate thing. And I will say it is a very political matter, which is one of the reasons I try to be very careful and intentional about how I speak about bully and prevailing wage.
On prevailing wage, can you have a preferred contractor or does it have to go out for open bid?
No, it does not. Prevailing wage does not automatically make you have to RFP. But if the government is issuing the building contract, then we would have to go through an RFP because it's our public money that we are spending. But when we grant money out, then no, we don't trigger an RFP for other people.
Okay. Well, this is very interesting from an outreach committee point of view, because the whole point of prevailing wage is in theory positive.
Yeah.
And therefore we need to address this openly and say, we want people to earn a good living in their construction, but there's reality. So within our committee, we want help about how to be positive on both sides. Would be good. So we are talking about it in an honest and yet realistic way.
Well, and Mark, you bring up a great point, especially because prevailing wage is a good thing.
Yeah.
And people will get paid more for their labor.
Right.
And that is not a bad thing.
No.
And did you guys hear the cost of the labor?
Yeah.
Like that is that much money flowing into the pockets of people working here.
Mhm.
So when people talk about like, oh, your taxes, what about the tax relief? It's like, well, what about the income taxes that we're generating here? What about the, and so prevailing wage is not a bad thing.
Right.
And it's unfortunate when these two good competing values impact each other when it nexuses on housing and we're in a housing crisis. And so I also feel, Steve, and want to help advocate for there being exceptions for nonprofit housing where it's needed so bad. And
right?
So
Yeah.
who has the power to change that? Like, what does that look like in terms of who makes that decision?
Sure. So that's BOLI,
Okay.
and that is the Bureau of Labor Industry. Yeah. And that is who determines whether or not your project has prevailing wages that will apply. And they can be lobbied, but it is very, very rare for decisions to be changed, but it can happen.
Someone has to make the right case.
Yes, and if that advocacy was going to happen with the Housing Commission or through citizen involvement, it would be my preference to not have it flow through me because of the competing values from a government perspective. I don't want to go argue against prevailing wage in my community and look at paying people less. And I also want to advocate for this project. So I will support any advocacy that the Housing Commission would like to do. And I will do all the things I normally do for our letters of support and whatnot, but I would prefer not to have you guys direct me to do that advocacy work myself through my office would be my preferred way of doing that kind of advocacy. Is just the Housing Commission writing letters, not the housing coordinator.
And it would probably be good to just have discussions with Sarah, Absher, and Aaron.
Yeah.
About,
You
the
know,
broader picture of this.
It would be great for the whole housing commission to have that discussion.
I think so, because
That would be
we're
really
making these
excellent.
public funds.
Yeah.
I will put a prevailing wage presentation / discussion onto the December agenda.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that, and maybe we'll invite Steve to the outreach committee. And
Right.
maybe we could make some plans or suggestions on how we could do some outreach through that committee to start with.
Yeah, I mean, I have your cake and eat it too, essentially would be to cover
Yes.
$1.8 million and the prevailing wage stays, and then we've got $1.8 million that's covered. And that's a really good story to tell of like,
Right.
we don't want to, like, that's $1.8 million. It's actually going back into the pockets of making sure
Yeah.
the wages are staying high.
Yeah.
So,
And then remembering what Jackie said about it being private for the coal pack
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what
I
that 1.8
don't
would
understand
be.
exactly how that works in this case. Is that,
I can
Private?
explain C-PACE very, very vaguely, but I'd rather have Jackie do it.
So,
Jackie,
so in terms of the capital stack, it would,
right?
the
That's-
$750,000.
that was my question, yeah.
So, Jackie, in Merle's case, it's a 0% interest loan from the state to the county, who then grants it to the project. Could you explain the difference between that and C-PACE? Where does the
So-
capital come from? For a C-PACE is a better way to put it.
Yeah, so it's private investors. It's private dollars. Essentially, for example, Don Schultz is a CPACE lender. There are lending agencies across the nation that specialize in lending CPACE funds. So it's private investment dollars. And when you're in the public sector and you're used to everything being state funds, federal funds, I mean, so much of the money that brings projects to fruition is public money, but these are private dollars. Beyond that, I don't know, that would be a question for a capital provider, where they secure the funds from.
That's plenty of detail.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the idea came from Berkeley decades ago, where they were looking to, this group of people they were looking to incorporate ways to finance energy, renewable products in housing and in commercial facilities. And so this was a program that they came up with. And yeah, I guess, are you asking the difference between Merle? It's like apples and oranges.
It's totally apples and oranges. I just wanted to draw the distinction that the Merle was coming from the state who was propping it up.
Yes.
Whereas this is private capital who comes in and does a similar thing where they assess the value and then lend against the value. But it's private capital doing it versus the state being the financier of the program, which is how we're able to do it at 0% interest.
And so that implies that because it's private money, it doesn't add on to that $750,000 limit.
And it doesn't, but it also doesn't matter because once you hit that threshold, you've hit the threshold. And so
Got it.
no matter what, it's
Got it.
already, once you cross it, it's a one time, not a cumulative.
So couldn't it be used instead of Merle?
It could, but Merle is more. So
Hmm.
And the interest rate must be much higher.
yeah, and it's a 0% interest, which is very good money. And it's, yeah.
And you use the combination too?
And you can use the combination of the two, and that's what we're gonna be investigating, is making, how does that work?
So Merle also is upfront. Is this also upfront?
Yes.
Oh, it is. also.
It is,
Okay.
yeah. And the other thing, I just thought I'd take a moment, Steve said tax exempt bond financing. And I just kind of wanted to give a quick background on what that is, because that is the major funding mechanism for that project. Tax exempt bonds are something that nonprofits, is a financing tool nonprofits have access to. And Dave, you correct me when I get anything wrong here, okay? But the tax exempt, when you think of tax exempt bonds, the person it's tax exempt for is the investor. And so tax exempt bonds actually pay a lower yield than a traditional bond. And any interest generated from a tax exempt bond for the person who purchased it and gets that yield, that interest rate, that interest that they make is tax exempt. And so in an economy like ours, where people are seeking safe havens for funding, when tax exempt bonds get issued, they are subscribed to very, very quickly, because it's a very safe way to put money that is backed by the state, that you don't have to pay taxes on the money it makes for you. So you can stash money there and have an income stream that you don't have to pay taxes on.
Like a Roth.
Yes, it's like a Roth, but for like, and so in this case, it's a very powerful tool that we are pairing with housing, and it can usually cover 85% roughly of the cost of your project. Merle is the last 10%. And so off the bat, anybody who has access to this, all we have to do is find that 5% delta. So that's why these two tools are so powerful when paired together.
What does delta mean exactly?
Difference between?
So Parker, I'm still trying to understand how Merle really helps out the guys at Tillamook Bay Commons, because it only adds $200,000 to the capital stack. The costs go up,
Merle adds 1.8 million to,
but the costs go up.
oh, right.
And so what's the advantage in using Merle?
What it is that now we can go and get other public monies and not have to worry about prevailing wage applying for like the sewer. If we use Business Oregon's financing program for the sewer project, if we had done that, it would also trigger prevailing wage for the project. And so now,
What confuses me though is that 85% bond financing, 10% Merle, now we're at 95%. There's not an awful lot more we need,
Right.
but our costs have just gone up.
they sure have. And so that's the new gap that has been, so Merle opened up a small new gap in our finance.
Maybe a larger.
It could be,
Yeah.
but we're hoping that CPACE will close it.
Okay.
But yes, it does.
Hmm.
And Dave, this is not the first time this has been a problem here. There is a author at the Willamette Week named Nigel Jackas, and I recommend reading his series on prevailing wage in Oregon if you would like to have the background on this. But it does mean though that now we can keep hunting for other public money, and we can keep throwing that money onto the pile without it increasing costs anymore. Because once you get hit by prevailing wage, you have to go and do it. So the other way to think about it, Dave, is that it wasn't just there was already public money in this. And so it wasn't like Merle put them like over the line by a little bit. It sent it way over the line into public funding. And so when you add in the rest of the public funding, you have to include that in that. You said $200,000, but it's also all the other money that we've taken previously that helped accumulate to prevailing wage. Or I say we, it's them, but
Right.
I can only speak with so much clarity.
Complicated.
It's super complicated. Welcome to my world.
Well, is that why there's not more nonprofit developers, is because of the complexity? Because it seems like it would be such an advantage for any developer to become a nonprofit developer if they are building anything up to workforce.
I think the
Or middle
airplane's being
housing.
built as it's being, well, as kind of some of what's happening.
Yeah. And I think Kristen,
Like,
part of it.
we're in the air flying, the
Yeah.
wings are being.
They don't have the means and capital, so essentially they have to at like working for a nonprofit, it's really difficult because there's so many restrictions on the money you can receive and what you can do with it, and it's a lot.
Yeah,
It also takes the profit incentive out for the developer.
it does.
It's
Yes.
huge.
They now have a set, and more importantly, in my mind, it cuts out the landlord. Because now when people pay rent, they're not paying rent into someone's pocket. They're paying it into the pocket of the nonprofit who goes out and builds more housing with it. So that's who we've cut out, is someone just sitting around collecting money on investment, because now that gets put back into our community and build more workforce housing. And every time we build another project, that starts going faster and faster and faster until they can turn around and be building one at the rate of demand.
And I think to answer some of what you were saying about like, what's the benefit of Merle, my understanding, some of it has to do with timeline, because the rain showed up and Merle is funding that's available now that, yes, it created a hole, but it also kind of pushes things forward enough to be able to get things going forward so that when the rain chills out enough, they'll be at a spot where they're able to start moving. Instead of waiting for this, like, well, where's that? So I think that timeline stuff.
That's it, yeah. It's really down.
Right, it is.
So it's a very messy project.
But it also gives,
To start the build.
They were hoping to put
Yes.
dirt this fall,
Yeah.
but it's looking like that'll be the spring now. And their construction project partner is Remick, who did the Nahalo Health District new clinic. So if you want to see the quality of build of the actual contractor, that building is
It's
beautiful.
beautiful. I was there yesterday.
Yeah,
It is
gorgeous.
really, really.
I mean, I can't imagine when I went to the open house there, and it's like the windows on the bay, it's like, no one's gonna care if they're not called to the doctor for.
Yeah, That beautiful window for sure.
The finishes. Oh, you were gonna.
I was gonna ask, so with Merle, does that kind of give you a funding stack that then I can go out to an investor and use that as, hey, we've got partial funding, we need to close this gap?
Unfortunately, with Merle, it has the but for, and so it has to be the last 10% in.
Yeah.
And so what you could do is say, investor, if you can help me get to 90%, then there is this thing that I can go and apply for. So it's close to, but
it's.
it's a little trust go flows the other direction in that way.
What Dave, you were saying, instead of to 90, at least to get that before Merle.
Yeah, right.
Say, give me this, and I can get that.
Yeah. And it's capped at 10%?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of the whole project, or 50 or 10 or 15 years, depending on your qualification of loan terms, would also give you your cap. But 10% of the total project is the most that Merle will pay.
Okay.
So should we move on to development or?
Yeah, development committee, I'll be sending out an email. We'll be restarting that committee. We are going to get our ducks in a row first and have a plan all the way out for a year. I'm not just gonna willy-nilly start scheduling appointments that aren't thought out. Again, Sarah's gonna kind of head up that effort, and Elizabeth and I will be supporting. And so at the next meeting, by the next meeting, we should have either had a development committee meeting or have one on the books for sometime upcoming. And Dave, you asked me to check on timelines. The timelines that the Housing Commission approved for the Housing Production Solutions Fund. Applications open the 15th, close December 31st, present to the Housing Commission February 5th. Finance Committee evaluation report at February 15th. March 5th, Housing Commission makes award recommendation to the county commissioners. And Board of County Commissioners begin final approval adjustments of awards on or after March 11th. And so that is when we will start. March 11th is the earliest day that funds will flow to a project.
And we're still working with about $400,000.
Still working with about $400,000. We are also getting, Sarah is really trying to make sure that we can see where our funds are. It's something that you guys have been asking for a long time. And now that we've stabilized the STR program and whatnot, and potentially Jeff Wong's funds coming back to us. If you guys recall, when we gave Jeff Wong his second award on his project, we made it contingent on his application for the agricultural workforce housing tax credit not being successful. We basically said, hey, if you are successful with your ag worker housing tax credit plus the 65 we gave you last year, that is plenty of support. You shouldn't need more, so we need that 80K back if you get it all. And so if he does get that, we'll have that conversation. I do not know how that will function, what the function of doing that is, but I'll be talking to the attorneys and we'll figure it out. And so then it comes in like, when does funding need to be here for it to go into our round of housing funds? And there will be more conversations about that, but we're cleaning up the process. We'll have a better idea of what it will be now and into the future. And yeah. And STRs keep pumping away, so hopefully there's good money from the season in there for us.
Yeah, with regard to these presentations, it would really be helpful if we could ask some questions ahead of the presentation. So for example,
Okay.
Kevin and Katie, if you're gonna be out of town, whomever is representing them at that presentation would be, give some advance notice as to what our questions are.
Yeah, and I think if I recall from last year, we can do that, but it has to be the same questions for everybody. We can't send specific questions out ahead of time because it's an unfair advantage kind of situation. But what we can do is generate a list of these are questions we'd like everybody to answer and have that for them. And that's something the finance committee should be working on this month, I think.
It's unfortunate.
It is, but I will dive better into what we can do, and I will have that for the finance committee meeting, and I will ask the attorney what is fair and equitable and what crosses the line, and so we have a better idea, because I'm a little vague too right now on it. But I remember, because Dave, we actually did that last year, we had individual questions, and I went to send them and I got stopped. And so instead, I basically took all of the questions, made a big list, and was like, here are some questions that you might all face. So I'm trying to figure out ways to do that equitably and fairly without causing any heartache for the attorneys. But next month, I'm hoping to have Jeff Wong come and give us a project update on his, and hopefully his ag worker housing tax credit will have been successful, and we can be like, where's our money?
And we'll have 480. So,
Yeah.
we're getting on, so is that it for development or
Yeah,
questions?
Development committee will have an actual update next meeting.
Okay, no.
And when is the next meeting?
The next meeting is the first week of December, or the next
No, I mean
housing commission
development
meeting.
committee.
They haven't decided on development
Okay.
committee. We're gonna send out a poll and make sure we got everybody lined up for a good long time. Our next housing commission meeting will be December 4th.
So we come to public comment at the end. Any public comment? And I don't think there's anyone online. So I guess that I will adjourn the meeting at 11 or 10:57.
54.
54, all right.
Sounds great. Thank you, everybody online, and see you next time.